Germany's oldest tourist route, the Romantic Road, was opened in 1950, and it winds its way 385 kilometers through the south of the country, from Würzburg to Füssen.
The initial idea was to call this route a romantic road for couples in love, but then the founding fathers decided that that was too long, plus this title wouldn't have fit on these brown signs anyway.
The route runs through some of Germany's most beautiful countryside and numerous quaint old towns. In Würzburg, you can pick up a bike and follow the Romantic Road cycle path, or take an organized tour. The palace, the Residenz, was the home of the powerful Prince Bishops of Würzburg until the start of the 19th century. Its splendid 18th century Baroque architecture helped it make it onto the UNESCO World Cultural Heritage List. The Residenz itself has a lot to do with the idea behind the Romantic Road.
It has to do with the great romantic concept of synesthesia, with overloading all the senses at the same time.
Anne-Kathrin has covered the first 40 kilometers of the Romantic Road. Her next stop is a well-known German wine estate in the Tauber Valley.
People have grown wine here for over 1,000 years, and that's of course why the landscape is as it is.
So wine has been drawing bon vivants to Taubertal for centuries. Today, grapes are picked the same way as they were 60 years ago, by hand. At harvest time and when the first wines are ready, the local vintners turn their homes into makeshift inns. Many young women from the area dream of one day becoming the wine queen, or like here in Röttingen, the wine princess. But to get to wear the crown, they have to know their stuff, like explaining bottle shapes.
Traditional boxbeutel shape dates back to a time when people would keep the wine in goat's bladders. That explains its shape.
Rothenburg ob der Tauber is the most famous town on the route. It's car-free, but you can take a rickshaw taxi. It boasts just 12,000 residents, but as many as 2.5 million visitors a year.
Rothenburg was on a major north-south trade route, and that route is now known as the Romantic Road. So the tourists traveling that route automatically end up here in our town.
140 kilometers from the start at Würzburg is Feuchtwangen. This is a good place to switch means of transport once again. This is where the Romantic Railroad begins.
You can go about 50 kilometers of the Romantic Road by train, and if you're lucky like I am today, you can even do it on one of the old trains like this one.
To mark the 60th anniversary of the Romantic Road, every Sunday a vintage train runs between Feuchtwangen and Nördlingen.
There is such a nice nostalgic feel.
Reminds me of when I was a little girl in England when we went by train then. And the sounds and everything is really exciting.
The river Wörnitz runs right alongside the railway line and accompanies the Romantic Road for around 130 kilometers. The Wörnitz is ideal for a paddle tour, as it's not too deep and it's not too wide. Dinkelsbühl is one of the prettiest towns on the route. The old town has hardly changed since the 15th century. The head tourism office of the Romantic Road is here. Jürgen Wünschensmeyer is in charge, and of course he knows the area like no other. The route, he says, was clear from the start.
They reached agreement very swiftly in defining it. The Romantic Road has been very successful, and we're always getting requests from towns and villages to be added to it. They all write and tell us how pretty it is where they are, and romantic. Couldn't you have the road pass by here too? But so far we haven't done anything like that. We've stayed true to the original.
The southern part of the route is famous for its castles and palaces, like the world-famous Neuschwanstein Castle built by the eccentric Bavarian king Ludwig II. It attracts 1 million visitors a year.
It's the most famous castle in the world. It has been reconstructed in many other places, and all the visitors come here first. It's important.
The castle is romantic looking and reminds you of the olden times.
Every single room was designed by the monarch, although only 15 of 200 were actually completed. King Ludwig was a man of vision.
He created his own world, a mystical world, a mysterious world. Ludwig was also enigmatic himself.
King Ludwig II only actually lived in his castle for a few months. After his death, it was open to the paying public to tackle the massive debts the king had amassed building it. The last stage takes us to the very southern tip of Germany, to Füssen in the Allgäu region, which is only 5 kilometers from the Austrian border. Füssen is the highest town in Bavaria, and this is where the romantic road comes to an end.